magnesium in the chlorophyll, right? So when they overturn this, they break in the shield.
Okay.
Remember, JFK said that we was confronted with a monumental conspiracy. And then he named all of the methods of operation that they was using to subjugate the people. He did it in the speech to the press club in New York. Then the Catholic Church tried to buy him, and he came out and did another speech called The Separation of Church and State. Because he wouldn't go with the Jesuit agenda to usurp the interim government's control over the people. Right? So the Pope was like, that's our property. And he was like, no, this is the people's property.
Wow.
So, you know, he had to go.
Wow.
It's the same thing if they tell us. If they tell us what's going on, so they start telling us in theater in blackface. But we don't know how to read theater, so we don't know what they're saying. And then they got us thinking they making fun of us, but they telling us they being controlled by puppet masters that look like us, but they ain't us.
Wow. Okay.
So Frantz Fanon wrote the book, Black Skin, White Mask. And he dropped so many clues in that book about how they was being usurped by people that appeared to be like them. Their own tribesmen was turning on them. He said, this is not conducive to who we are. Where is this coming from? But we don't understand espionage, infiltration, right?
Yes.
As long as you don't understand that, that's the art of war. Your spy network is the most valuable network to the crown in order to uphold its jurisdictional authority by being able to enforce his right to rule, right? By blood and guts if necessary. So they keep us fighting each other. We won't never see how to get out of the condition. So they created all of the isms. Sexism, racism, politicsism, religious isms, right? These is fixed conditions of the mind that stops the mind from growing, creating the artificially induced arrested development. They have to put you through a 12-step thinking detox program and call it public education.
Yeah.
Same as the 12 steps for alcohol. They just spread it out over 12 years until you graduated from high school when you finally get your coin at the end of the course. All right. So you go on to the 13th seat because Queen Mother got to give you your blessing. Cap in the gown. Flip the tassel. Right. All of the codes that they got people doing that they don't even know what they're doing. Swearing allegiance to stuff they have no clue what it's about. So when you expose to the public the method and the function of the trickery, it doesn't work anymore because the human mind understands the trick. It doesn't work anymore. So that's what I've been systematically trying to do, explaining the function of the sorcery. How it works, how it's used to subjugate energy, right? What's these spells they put on us? And then by exposing it to the public, that's called breaking the spell. Because when the human mind understands it's been trapped, you can try to turn your head and deny it. It's going to find a way free. It's going to follow the path of least resistance to get you free. And sometimes the path of least resistance, if you're looking for a financial exit, it's going to send you to understand the financial aspect of the emerging system so you can be ahead of the curve. This is what draws you into the study of the gold, the XRP, right? The SESQE Trust, the Nasara Jasara.
Yes.
You have people that's been overlooking that information for a prolonged period of time.
Mm.
By watching how they see the information, you get to use what's called holographic projection to bring it all together so that the people you communicate with know exactly what you're talking about. But if they listen to them other people, they don't have a clue.
True.
So you become a code cracker, right? You translating what the upper echelons was doing to subjugate the people and telling them now this is the work that's being done to liberate the people.
Absolutely.
We all gonna be rich.
Yes.
We all gonna be rich. I keep saying, why y'all worried about the immigrants? Who gonna work? we stuck in the victim mentality. When we get rich, we not gonna work. You're not finna get nail one of these people $50 million a piece and think they going to work. They not showing up at GM, Chrysler, and Ford. They not showing up at Kraft. They not showing up at none of the factories. Who gonna work? But Mother Nature always paves a way. If you trust in the instincts of nature, that's how you understand the voice of God when it talks to you.
Okay.
Right? And then when you watch the flow of nature, how things supposed to naturally move, then you make a calculation of adjustment for man's entropy. At the consistent rate that we F stuff up, and nature gonna continue to run and force us to clean it up at the end. We at the end going into the new beginning. Right? So they had some receipt drops in code across other social media platforms that's been tickling me to my pink. Look, so on Truth Social, Donald Trump posted a clip on his page, and it had George Clooney explaining to Joseph Biden that he only has 7 more days on his job and he's terminated.
Okay.
Now remember, this is all staged theatrical political performance from high actors pretending to be corrupt politicians to fill the space so the people don't know that the dirty players have been dealt with. It was a Q drop the other day to say all of the cabal has been apprehended.
Yes.
Right? It's consistent with the Supreme Court and the Federal Reserve both having these walls built around them in DC. Right? So they're expecting the ruling from the other case about people with no oath of office. Do the math. Everybody with no oath of office is part of central casting. If the Supreme Court ruled on that openly, it dismantles the entire political arena instantly. And then it reverts back to when Donald J. was the president.
Okay.
Right? So that's what you call a hard reset. Right? Take the point of the new beginning, patch it back to a time in the past where the thing was about to go right before it went wrong. It's a scientific method, reverse engineering.
Okay.
So they tell us in the codes to follow to see the progress that they making in silence so that the regular people don't know what they saying. My job is to tell it. I'm the reverse snitch. I'm snitching on the government's dirty deeds to the people. They want our people to snitch on us. So why don't I find out what they got secret and snitch on them? Why don't I learn how to read their codes and come tell our people what they saying and what they plot? It's a reset coming. Time magazine had the red cover with Joe Biden exit lower left, stage left, which is the right hand of the page. Right? All that's code.
Okay.
right? That's exit stage left mean he's not coming back after this. So he got an exit strategy to bring the stage show to an end. The soft disclosure is the gradual mental decline revelation that they've been knew about, like I showed you earlier, for years. Right? So all of a sudden, now that he's trying to F somebody's wife, they showing us this stuff. They showing us people that's obviously wearing a mask with two-tone skin on their neck. It's obviously a mask pretending to be Joe Biden, and the person that's wearing the mask is markedly darker than the person that he's portraying with the mask, right? They know to cover up the neck portion because normally when they make the mask and have the flap that covers the upper torso so that it look like you the same tone. They did that on purpose because they trying to make it so obvious now where the people be like, man, come on with this.
Right.
We see through that. So we exposing the David Copperfield illusion by ripping it open and walking them through the steps they using as the means to make us oppress ourselves. In order to liberate ourselves, by knowing what they doing, your psyche is going to automatically begin to work to undo it in your life. So I'm telling you, this is what they do. So once they tell us that the shield is broken, right, which is the blood shield, would take us to the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds was the cover story for some European Jews, but they look like us, but they ain't us. They had gated communities where they lived in a true element among themselves, but they didn't allow people that look like us in their gated communities. They called us something other than them. We not them. We something called Goy.
Okay.
That's commonly translated in the English as chattel. But it's to them it means a lower form of the human. It's a superiority complex in order to give other people an inferiority complex. So they keep you in the victim position long enough to forget your divinity. Right? Because you're so busy suffering as a victim, now you forgot the inner light that makes you animate is a direct link to source. And that each one of us is expressing ourselves in order to wake the other ones up in the way we know best.
Okay.
So now we come up on the different revelations of GINDJAB. Well, I know that the plane crash was a staged event. Right? But that came on the heels of George magazine, which did two things. It revealed JFK Jr., but it also exposed George Herbert Walker Bush.
Okay.
CIA records said that he was working in a cutout. He was working in the business cutout as a press guy and oversaw the assassination of JFK. So if the CIA got that in their documents, you gotta remember he rose to become the director. How did he get there? What deed did he do that granted him the excessive ability to run the CIA?
Wow.
Right? And it was from the CIA's control of Richard Millie Mouth Nixon, Jimmy the Peanut Carter, Ronald the Wilson Reagan, that he used in a successive string of CIA events that gave him the position to put him in power that culminated in, if you go to William Cooper's Behold a Pale Horse, he tell you the exact Senate Select Committee that he called in to declare him King George I of the United States of America. Right? Yes. So now they have to give us, in their secret societies, they got to give us 3 major catastrophes. That's 3 major acts of war to let us know we under attack.
Okay.
They did it over 5-year intervals. That's 555. Okay, so it's 1991, the first World Trade Center bombing, where they tried to blow the basement of it out and make it collapse.
I remember that.
Remember?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and we had songs in the hip hop community, blow up like the World Trade.
Yes.
Right? Remember that? Then in 95, going into 96, we had Hillary was about to get indicted, but the Oklahoma City bombing blew up all of the records from her indictment accidentally.
Okay. Okay.
Right. And then all of the people that was close to her that knew about the plot, they killed themselves in mysterious ways. She the only person on earth that got 500 close friends, relatives, and acquaintances that killed themselves all of a sudden with stuff like gunshot wound behind the head. Who does that? The Olympic swimmer drowns in his bathtub. But we supposed to be to the level of naivety that when they tell us these things, we used to laugh at them and we just nickname her Killery and keep it moving.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we know what she's doing. So now that we know what she's doing and we gave her the nickname, she tagged now. Miss Evergreen, according to the CIA. And you know, the Evergreen containers was the shipping containers from the human trafficking, bringing in the children from Asia, Cambodia, Vietnam, Korea, that was being bought and used over here as nannies.
What?
Cooks, housekeepers, restaurant owners.
I did not.
But they handlers look like us. They owners. They probably much darker than we are. But they've been doing it for a couple thousand years. Ain't nobody supposed to never figure it out. They called themselves conquistadors at one time. Meaning the tutors of the conquest. And the tutors family was the royal family from Europe. They got kicked out. They needed somewhere to go. How do they convince you to go along and be a part of their program? They make you think you're winning. All the time, you still stuck in your losing position. What Malcolm say? Because the caboose of the train made progress from Chicago to New York in relation to the engine, it's still the ass. Right? So the true progress for the caboose is at least get to be second to the engine. But the caboose can also be used as an engine if the engine failed. So you bring the system down and the caboose takes over and it gets to control where the train goes. How do we know? Because we're gonna derail it by knocking down some bridges to show them what we're trying to tell them. Since they don't want to listen to the first signs that came through, we're gonna give it to them in catastrophic form, right? So these catastrophes is planned in order to shock the consciousness of the collective to snap out of a trance. It's the same as the hypnotist snapping his fingers and say, you are now awake. But somebody got to explain to them the process that took place that ensnared their mind, in an adverse condition to the benefit of the person. That's why you have to do the shadow work, because you don't know that you've been programmed until you do the shadow work. Because you start seeing that there's things expected of you that's not part of the character and makeup of who you are. That's when you start breaking the program.
Wow.
Where did I get that from? Right? Where did I hear that at?
Mhm. Mhm.
That ain't me. Why do people think that about me? I never did that.
Mm.
Because your ego self is a sum composite of everything everybody else believe about you except you.
Mm.
The
Wow.
prerequisite for it to form the ego is you have to accept it as true. The irony is that as long as you accept it as true without questioning it, the subconscious don't act on it. So this is why all of the great masters tell you to look within in order to find your way out.
Beautiful.
They was telling you the pass keys. This is what you got to do, but don't just do it because I told you. Do it because you want to do it, because you want to be free, right? So everybody start doing their self work. It starts shifting this collective egregore because all of us together is a mastermind group of a monument of proportions. And if you understand the principle of the mastermind group, this is why it's important to make contact with matriarchs that's doing key critical work in the community. Because you're forming a web network energetically from this information being transferred into consciousness. It's going to seep into people that's not even consciously listening.
Mm.
It's the nature of information. It's going to always follow